Hello there, welcome to my channel. My name is John, and I'm a student at the University of St Andrews, which you could probably guess from the title. I started here in St Andrews in 2017, so I'm about to go into my fourth year. I spend most of my free time with various performing arts societies of one kind or another, so I thought it might be useful for any incoming freshers to give an overview of the sort of things you can do here, especially given that with the current COVID-19 situation, who knows what sort of in-person events are actually going to be allowed to go ahead. So normally societies would all advertise themselves to you at an event called the Freshers' Fair, which I don't know, might still be going ahead, but I have my doubts, given that it involves a lot of people at an indoor gathering. First, let me just give a bit of background about myself and my journey through the different societies of St Andrews. Hello there, this is me from the future. I noticed during editing of this video that I tended to ramble on a bit, and a lot of the important information was sort of scattered in between my anecdotal stories. So I decided to preface the bulk of the video with a short summary of some of the key information. Basically, the best way to keep up to date with what different societies at the university are doing is by following them on Facebook, because almost every event, including auditions and things, will have a Facebook event, which is how I find out about a lot of these things. And also, a lot of the societies have Instagram, although I don't think they don't really advertise their auditions and stuff on Instagram, but it's still useful to follow if you want to keep up to date with what they're doing. So links to all of the social media I mention here and also later in the video will be in the description below. To put it briefly, if you're interested in musical theatre, then Just So Society put on musicals, Opera Society put on English translations of operas, the Gilbert and Sullivan Society put on operettas by Gilbert and Sullivan, as the name suggests. Mermaid Society do plays. There are quite a few music ensembles, but most of them are affiliated with the Music Society, so I won't try and list all of them here. All the ones I do mention later will be listed in the description. If you follow the Music Society on Instagram, they often have Instagram takeovers by different ensembles, so that's a good way to find out about the different groups. But I shall also include the social media links of any individual societies I mention later in the video. When I first came here, I'd never acted on stage, or really, I'd done very little singing on stage because there weren't really very many opportunities at my school, mainly because there weren't many people interested. So I was very apprehensive about auditioning for any musicals or plays or that sort of thing in first year. I think I maybe auditioned for like one play and didn't get in, and then felt a bit disheartened and sort of didn't try again until second year. So in my first year, most of the performing arts stuff that I did was music. When I arrived here in 2017, I'd been playing the trombone for 9 years. So in my first year, I played principal trombone in symphony orchestra. For the second semester, I played bass trombone in big band, and I played in wind band. So a bit of an overview on those ensembles I've mentioned. In order to get into symphony orchestra or big band, you need to audition, whereas wind band don't audition. If you're interested in jazz and play a big band instrument, the big band is definitely worth auditioning for because it's great fun. Have a great selection of music. Their audition policy is quite different from other ensembles I've been in, which is that instead of re-auditioning everyone every year, if you've got in a previous year, then you're just in the band until you choose to leave. So there aren't necessarily opportunities to join the band as a fresher until another member leaves, if they've already got a full section. For example, when I was in first year, I auditioned to join the trombones. All their trombones from the previous year were staying, so they didn't need any new ones. But then a trombonist left at the end of the first semester, so I got to join in the second semester of my first year. Symphony orchestra, on the other hand, re-audition every year. So something you'll notice about St Andrews is that even though it's a really small town, there are a lot of different music societies and performing arts societies you can be involved in. And what this sort of results in, on the one hand, it's really great that there are lots of things you can try out. On the other hand, a lot of groups rehearse at the same time because there's only so much time in the week and so many. And what this means is that sometimes if you want to be involved in lots of different things, you sometimes have to pick between one or the other. And so in my third year, I decided not to re-audition for symphony orchestra because it rehearsed at the same time as Opera Society, which I was interested in being involved in. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. As well as these groups which anyone can audition for, or in the case of wind band, you just join, you don't need to audition. I also became involved in my first year. I became involved in the Gilbert and Sullivan Society, which, as the name suggests, they're a society dedicated to putting on operettas by Gilbert and Sullivan, the Victorian composers. I was not really particularly familiar with Gilbert and Sullivan before I came to St Andrews. Actually, I got recruited into the orchestra for 2 of their shows sort of independently of each other. One of them I was asked if I'd like to play in the orchestra for their production of Princess Ida, because the musical director knew someone who I knew from before I came to university. By some strange coincidence, got involved in a production they did of The Beauty Stone, and I got involved in that because the musical director also played piano at big band. Well, basically none of the other trombonists at big band wanted to do it for some reason. So that was how I was introduced to the Gilbert and Sullivan Society. I performed in the orchestra for their production of The Mikado in 2018, which was the start of my second year. But then in the second semester, I've always been interested in theatre. I've just never really had the opportunity to take it very far, which is why I was a bit shy to audition for things in first year. But given that I'd got to know a lot of people in the Gilbert and Sullivan Society, and they were all incredibly friendly, that put me a bit at ease with the idea of auditioning for their next shows, which is what I did. And I ended up in the chorus for their 2019 production of Iolanthe, which was quite fun because it was playing a peer in the House of Lords, which an oddly relevant bit of social satire, given that it was written in like over 100 years ago. And so since then I've been in the cast of all of their shows, mostly chorus. I very nearly played a principal character on stage in the production of Patience, which got cancelled because of COVID-19, which is a bit annoying. So I did get the chance to play the judge and trial by jury in a charity concert, which was great fun. I should maybe mention the Gilbert and Sullivan Society, and a lot of society, the biggest theatre in St Andrews, it's quite a small theatre, but it's bigger, it's the biggest one in town, is the Bar Theatre, which I think is owned by the university. And as far as I'm aware, they've cancelled basically everything up until like November. I'm not totally sure because I'm not like involved in any committees or anything, but it seems unlikely that there are going to be any normal shows this semester. So having finally overcome the trepidation of acting and or going on stage by joining the Gilbert and Sullivan Society, I then sort of frantically tried to make up for lost time by doing as many things as I could the following year, which is my third year. Apart from doing everything I can with the Gilbert and Sullivan Society, I've also done 2 shows with the Opera Society, which is a society which do traditional operas, although they do them with English translations. One of their goals as a society is to make opera more accessible for people who wouldn't normally have access to opera. So not only do they do it in English so that people who maybe don't speak a foreign language can understand it, they allow a lot of people to perform who don't have any classical experience. For example, I've never had any singing lessons. All my knowledge of classical music comes from playing the trombone, so ordinarily I wouldn't get into an opera. So just because you've never had any classical training singing doesn't mean you can't do opera. If you're interested, then of course classical training is useful, I would imagine. So that's definitely something to try if you're interested in opera, or if you're interested in singing at all. Opera Society and GNS Society both do 1 show per semester. And so in my second year, I was involved with both Opera Society shows. They managed to get the second one in just before the pandemic hit. So another show I did when I was in third year, while I was going mad with doing as many things as I could, I did my first show with the Mermaids Performing Arts Society, and they're basically they're affiliated with most of the other societies, like GNS, I think, and possibly Opsoc. They're basically, they mainly do like normal plays that don't have music in them. I had a few minor parts in a production of Edward II, which was originally by Christopher Marlowe, although this version had been really heavily adapted by a friend of mine, Matthew Gray, who is also, I think he's on the committee for Mermaids, so they could be wrong, but I met Matthew Gray during at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival last year, when he and I were both in the Gilbert and Sullivan Society's production of The Pirates of Penzance. He played the police chief, and I was one of the 2 other policemen, because it was a really small cast. To date, that's the only mermaid show I've done. I don't really know much about them. I got a part in another mermaid show, which was meant to go on at the Fringe this year, but since the Fringe was cancelled, that show didn't happen, which was a show called Curiosity Killed the Cat, which was co-written by a friend of mine, Maria, who I also know from the Gilbert and Sullivan Society. It's something you'll notice is that a lot of people who are involved in one performing arts society are also involved in several others, and so it's very easy to make friends, and sort of chances, if you join one, chances are you'll then have friends in the other societies, and then you instantly become a lot more up to date with what's happening. So this has become a bit long-winded, but basically there's one other society I've been involved in, which is the Just So Society, and they specialise in musical theatre, like traditional musicals. To date, I've not actually been in the cast for any of their shows. So far, I've only auditioned to be in the cast of one of their shows, which was Chicago, which I didn't get into. Although I did get the chance to play in the orchestra for Chicago. I played first trombone in the orchestra, which was great fun. And it was interesting because the theatre was quite small and you couldn't fit the whole orchestra in the pit, so they decided they'd just extend the stage over the pit and have half the orchestra on the stage and half the orchestra backstage, which was interesting. Which meant that I saw the whole musical, albeit from behind. I was in the orchestra for a production they were doing of The Addams Family, which got cancelled due to COVID-19. They're in the process of doing a video of one of their songs, which I luckily got the chance to be involved in, because unfortunately my trombone has been trapped in the music centre since the pandemic happened, so that's like 4 months, so I'm going to be absolutely unable to play for a few months from when I get it back. Fortunately, they were very kind enough to let me participate in that video as a member of the chorus. So basically, that's an overview of all the societies that I've been involved in so far and kind of what they sort of things that they do. I think given that the Freshers' Fair will probably be cancelled this semester, if you're interested in joining any of these societies, it might be a good idea to follow them on Facebook so that you can find out about auditions and things. A lot of shows do auditions like really close to the start of the semester, so even if you went to the Freshers' Fair and managed to book an audition, it could be that you don't have enough time to prepare for it. So if you follow the Facebook page, then you've usually got a few weeks at least of an advance warning, if not more, depending on how far ahead they're planning. And if they're, depending on how limited in-person events are this semester, it might be that you only find out about these things through social media if we can't have a society fair. So I would definitely advise you following them all on social media. In fact, I'll do better than that. I'll put links to the social media of all the societies that I've mentioned in the description below, so that if you're interested in any of them, you can find them quickly. So thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful. I know from experience it can be quite overwhelming, the number of different things you can join when you're a first year. And often, like in my case, there were several groups that I didn't even know about until after it was too late. A lot of plays and things. If you're an incoming fresher, my number one piece of advice would be not to be afraid to try new things, because believe it or not, despite outward appearances, everyone is actually just as trepidatious of trying new things. At least all the societies that I've been involved in have been incredibly welcoming to new members, and indeed, if you are hesitant to audition for a show because you've never done a stage show before, it's easy to say don't worry about it. It's a different thing to actually not worry about it. But I had no prior experience, and a lot of people I've known have had very little, if any, prior experience singing or acting on stage before auditioning for things. But that really won't hold you back, because everyone's so helpful and welcoming. I hopefully my experience and what I've been able to tell you has been useful if you're an incoming fresher and you're interested in singing, acting, making music. I guess one big area I've left out is dancing, because I have no experience dancing. There are numerous dance societies, but I don't really know much about them because I've never been involved in them, and I don't really know anything about dancing apart from traditional Scottish dancing, which hopefully you'll get a chance to enjoy. Whether you're Scottish or not, ceilidh is great fun. I think that's the advice I'll leave you with. If you ever get invited to a ceilidh, don't turn the offer down unless you're sick, or yeah, I mean there are lots of reasons why you could turn the offer down, but I mean if you're fit and healthy and don't have any other plans, then don't turn the offer down. Thank you for watching. If you found this interesting, please subscribe. I mean, I don't know if I'll put anything else like this out, but if I do, you'll be the first to know. Feel free to follow me on social media. I have the links on my channel and in the description below. This channel gets mostly used to advertise music which I write and perform, so if that interests you, then that's another reason to subscribe, even if this video is of no help at all. But anyway, thanks for watching and goodbye.